Some women, after pregnancy especially, the muscle separates. So even so it looks like fat is not really fat. What it is just the muscle separating, so it creates a shape of the belly. That's not what you have. So you have little tiny amounts of fat.
Yeah, I always called it baby fat, but I'm 25 now, so.
Still baby fat. Still baby fat.
I'll take it.
We're talking about tummy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and body weight, is your body weight pretty close to where you think it should be at this point?
Yeah, I
Okay.
never really look at my weight. I look at the inches really.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just that extra layer of fat that's always, hanging around there.
Okay. And do you notice, like later on in the day, you see a little bit more?
Yeah. So
Okay.
like I'm happy when I wake up and I look at my body, and then throughout the day, eating a little bit, even lightly, definitely like bloating exacerbates it.
Okay. And what about different times of the month? Before a menstrual cycle, do you notice a little bit more or not really?
Definitely, it's more. I think it's more harder, like bloating,
Okay.
and then it just like pushes that extra layer out a little more than normal. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's have you hop up for a minute. Let's just take a quick peek. Wow, my hands are cold.
I know,
Normally
I
my
think I
hands-
apologized
normally my hands are warm. Okay. So what I want you to do is puff your belly out. So there we go. Perfect. Good. And now relax. And I want you to suck your tummy all the way in. Good. Okay, now what I want you to do is have a seat. And I want you to tilt yourself backwards. And then what I want you to do is I'm going to resist. And I want you to roll, like kind of come forward. You tilt your whole upper body. Good. Now relax. And now I want your upper body coming forward as I resist you. Good. That just, what's that? So what that does is checks the muscle. Some women, after pregnancy especially, the muscle separates. So even so it looks like fat is not really fat. What it is just the muscle separating, so it creates a shape of the belly. That's not what you have. So you have little tiny amounts of fat.
Yeah, I always called it baby fat, but I'm 25 now, so.
Still baby fat. Still baby fat.
I'll take it.
All right. So when we talk about, when we talk about body contouring, there's essentially 3 different ways of doing it. Right? This is not advice. This is just what's the landscape. So one can go in and take the fat out with liposuction, right? Taking out the fat cells. Or one can do things to damage the fat cells so the body breaks them down and then excretes them. Both of those things are ways of getting rid of the fat cells, okay? There are other things we do where you take the fat out of the fat cell. Dieting is one example, right? And there's other procedures where the fat comes out of the fat cell, but that's not a permanent reduction of that fat. So right now, the leaders in removal of the fat cells are liposuction, which we consider more invasive, and then CoolSculpting and SculpSure. What CoolSculpting does is cools the fat down to a specific temperature whereby that fat starts to break up and actually die off, and then the body excretes it through the natural mechanisms. And then there's SculpSure, which uses laser energy to do the same thing. So they both work, and in your tummy, I mean, you can, we have both of them, and in certain people, one tends to be better than the other. And your belly, honestly, both will work. CoolSculpting is fine to use here. So the key with CoolSculpting is the candidate. So if you take someone and they have lots of fat and they don't even need liposuction, they need diet and exercise, you're not going to do CoolSculpting on them.
Yeah.
So CoolSculpting or even SculpSure for people that maintain their weight, they're active, and there's stubborn areas that they have trouble bulging. This is budging, not bulging, budging. So again, CoolSculpting, SculpSure are for people that have, good body shape, they eat right, they exercise, and then they have trouble with certain areas, budging them. So you're the perfect candidate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most people walking in are not the perfect candidate, but
Really?
you happen to be the perfect candidate.
Okay,
So if
good.
it can't work on you, it's not going to work on
All
anyone.
right.
All right. So CoolSculpting, the key with CoolSculpting is there are these hand pieces, or what we call applicators, and each applicator has a different shape. And the key to a good result is, number one, having the right candidate, which you are, and number two, having an applicator which fits the belly correctly. So it's very important to find out whether the facility that you're going to has invested in all the applicators. Because if you use an applicator or a handpiece that just doesn't fit right, it's not going to work. Okay? So we're going to measure your tummy and make sure the applicator fits properly. If the applicator doesn't fit properly, what do? Do we use a different applicator? No, we use a different technology. That's when we might use SculpSure instead of CoolSculpting. So we're never going to compromise. So we have SculpSure, CoolSculpting, Liposonics, Liposuction, and then when we're meeting with someone, we're trying to figure out what's the ideal treatment for that person's belly. So the key to getting the best result, having the right candidate, number one, and number two is having the right device that is appropriate or is specific for that person. And not everyone is. Sometimes people come in, they're just not the right shape for one technology, and that's when we use a different one. Okay?
Makes sense.
So what we'll have someone do, maybe Robin can come in and use the applicators and kind of just measure. But all these applicators, each one of these different templates are the shape of these different applicators. And you can see how many there are. They have all these different shapes. So we're never compromising. We've invested in all these different shapes. So imagine with your belly, we're not going to compromise. Sometimes a facility, this is what they'll have. If you see how that fits your tummy, if you take a look, right, that fits perfectly. If this was the only applicator we had, it wouldn't fit. If this was the only applicator we had, it still wouldn't fit. So the key to a good result is having all the applicators, and look how that fits. But the key to a good result is having all the toys, having access to all these things. The result takes time because the body is breaking that fat down, and it takes weeks and months for the final result of that treatment. It's not uncommon when people have more fat than you that they're doing a series of treatments to achieve the end result. So sometimes the belief is that, well, I'm going to just do it once and I'm going to see what it does. And the truth of the matter, it normally takes more than one treatment. If it only took one treatment for most people, we would never do liposuction, right? Why would we ever do that, right? So you have small amounts of fat here, so it's easier and it'll be quicker. It may just take one treatment, but with a lot of other people, it takes a series of treatments and to achieve the result they want. Does that mean with most people we don't want them exercising and eating right? No, we want everybody eating right, exercising, because if people maximize their lifestyle, we can minimize how many treatments it takes with the technology. With the shape you're in, we just need to tweak a little bit with technology because you're in really good shape.
Thank you.
Questions so far?
No, you guys definitely covered your bases, and
Right.
I trust you guys. You know what you're doing.
I hope so. Been doing it for a long time. So what's going to happen treatment day, we are going to draw on your tummy and again match the applicator for your belly. When it's attached, you're pretty much going to just sit for a while and relax. People watch TV, they read, use their phone, and it's not painful. It feels cold, and then you even get used to the cold. When the applicator is put onto the tummy, the one thing we always look for is whether someone has a hernia. If someone has a hernia, which sometimes can happen in the belly button, you don't want to do anything that creates a vacuum or suction on the skin. After the treatment's done, there's a massage that's done, and the massage has been shown to actually increase the amount of fat that breaks down afterwards. When you leave, 0 downtime. You can go back, you can eat, you can exercise, you can do whatever you want. There's no restrictions. It's extremely safe. I mean, the complication rate is just, we just don't see problems. What can give a complication is if you use the wrong applicator for a given belly. So if the belly itself doesn't, if the applicator doesn't fit the belly and you're skipping an area, well, then you may create a little bulge of fat. There's also an unusual condition where people are very sensitive to cold, and they actually break out in a rash from cold. It's called cold urticaria. That's probably the only other restriction to using cold on the belly. We try not to do it in someone that's pregnant, even though it probably wouldn't do any harm, but we still don't do it. And that's really it. So the complications are extremely rare, and reasons we can't do it in an individual, uncommon as well. The most common reason we don't do it in an individual is someone that comes in that has too much fat. We want someone to bring down that fat with weight loss, with exercise, and then when they can't budget further, that's when to use CoolSculpting or SculpSure kind of thing. So with your belly, most likely what we're going to do is overlap, like use a couple of these and kind of overlap, and by overlapping, it decreases the risk of having any irregularities. But high patient satisfaction, as long as the person's a good candidate, and it should work. Should work great.
Sounds good.